10 years. 10 years I'd invested in that marriage, in that life we'd built together in our suburban Chicago home. I looked at him, completely stunned by what I'd just heard. "It's not your money anymore." Those words echoed in my mind like thunder rolling across Lake Michigan on a summer night. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, dripping with an arrogance that sent ice through my veins. I remember every sleepless night, every calculated risk, every obstacle I'd overcome to build my consulting firm from the ground up. I started with nothing but a laptop, a dream, and the kind of relentless determination that my grandmother always said ran in our family bloodline. I sacrificed friendships, weekends at the lake house, even my own health, all in the name of success. And here was this man who'd walked into my life when my company was already thriving, having the audacity to tell me that my hard-earned money wasn't mine anymore. The blood rushed to my face as indignation crashed over me like waves against the shores of Lake Shore Drive. How could he be so ungrateful, so completely disrespectful? Did he really think I'd forgotten about that piece of paper locked away in our safe? The document that protected me from exactly this kind of situation? The prenup, that prenuptial agreement that, at the time, seemed like unnecessary paperwork, just another legal formality to check off before our wedding at the Palmer house. I still remember the heated discussions with him and my family. He felt insulted, as if I didn't trust him. I, on the other hand, wanted to protect what I'd built with my own 2 hands, my legacy. In the end, he agreed to sign it, but he never hid his resentment about it. Now, 10 years later, that resentment was showing itself in the worst possible way. "It's not your money anymore." Those words were a slap in the face, a declaration of war. And believe me, I had absolutely no intention of losing this battle. In that moment, one thing became crystal clear. He'd made a grave mistake, a mistake he was going to pay dearly for. From that day forward, my life would transform into a legal drama that not even I, in my worst nightmares, could have imagined. But before taking any action, I needed a plan. And the first step was making sure that prenup was still bulletproof. What I didn't know was that fate had an even more shocking twist waiting for me. The rage was a hurricane inside me, but I knew I had to control it. Acting on impulse would be a fatal mistake. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I needed clarity, a strategic plan. The first thing to do was verify the prenup. That night, I waited for him to fall asleep. His snoring filled our master bedroom, that irritating sound that had been keeping me awake for months. I got up carefully, avoiding any noise that might wake him. The hardwood floors creaked under my feet. Each step felt like an eternity. I made my way to the home office, the room I'd transformed into my sanctuary, where ideas flourished and deals were made. The safe key was hidden in an antique jewelry box, a gift from my grandmother back in Wisconsin. I opened it carefully, the cold metal touching my trembling fingers. Inside, among important documents and memories from a lifetime, was the prenup, a piece of paper that, in that moment, was worth more than all the gold in Fort Knox. I took it and returned to the bedroom, settling into the reading chair by the window. The moonlight illuminated the fine print. Every clause, every paragraph written in legalese that years ago had seemed so distant and abstract. Now, those words were my salvation. I read and reread the document, making sure everything was in order. To my surprise, I found a clause I'd completely forgotten about, one that stated that in case of proven infidelity, he would lose all rights to my assets. My heart leaped in my chest. Infidelity. The word echoed in my mind. Could it be possible? Over the past few months, I'd noticed strange behavior from him. Whispered phone calls, deleted messages, unexplained schedule changes. He always justified it with work commitments, but I never fully believed him. The possibility of an affair had always hung in the air like an uncomfortable shadow lurking in the corners of our Lincoln Park townhouse. If it were true, the game would completely change. The prenup wouldn't just protect me, it would punish him for his betrayal. The thought filled me with bitter satisfaction, but I needed proof, concrete, irrefutable evidence. I decided to hire a private investigator, someone discreet, experienced, capable of uncovering the truth without raising suspicions. The next day, I scheduled a consultation with one of the best in Chicago. I explained the situation, showed him the prenup, and expressed my suspicions. He listened attentively, taking notes on every detail. "Ma'am," he said in a professional tone, "we'll do everything possible to uncover the truth. But I need to be honest with you. This type of investigation can be time-consuming and expensive." "Money isn't an issue," I replied firmly. "I just want the truth. And if he's guilty, I want him to pay for it." While waiting for the investigation results, I continued living my life normally. I made breakfast, smiled, made small talk about the weather and the Cubs' latest game. Inside, however, I was boiling with rage and anxiety. It was like living in a suspense thriller, where at any moment the bomb could explode. A week later, the detective called me. "I have important information to share with you," he said gravely. "Can we meet?" The meeting was at a discreet coffee shop in Wicker Park, away from prying eyes. He opened a manila envelope and placed photos on the table. My husband, with another woman, at a restaurant in River North, at a boutique hotel downtown. Kisses, embraces, intimate touches. The confirmation I both dreaded and desperately needed. The photos were the proof I required. Proof of the betrayal. Proof that he'd broken our agreement. Proof that he was going to pay dearly. In that moment, a new wave of rage washed over me, even stronger than before. But this time, the anger came accompanied by implacable determination. I wouldn't be the victim. I would be the protagonist of my own revenge story. And the first step would be finding a lawyer. A good lawyer. A ruthless lawyer who would turn my husband's life into a living hell. And I knew exactly who to call. The office of attorney Sarah Martinez smelled of new leather and broken promises. I'd scheduled the appointment as soon as the detective's photos arrived. I didn't waste any time. Sarah Martinez was known for her aggressiveness in divorce cases, a pit bull in Louboutin heels who didn't hesitate to use every weapon available. She was exactly what I needed. "Please, have a seat," she said, gesturing to the chair facing her imposing mahogany desk. Her eyes were sharp, evaluating me from head to toe. I felt exposed under her gaze, but I maintained my composure. I wouldn't show weakness. "I've already reviewed your case," she continued, picking up the prenup and photos from my file. "Infidelity, public humiliation. This is right up my alley." A cold smile played on her lips. "I love cases like this." I explained the details of my marriage, the rise of my business, my husband's infidelity, his arrogance in telling me that my money wasn't mine anymore. Sarah Martinez listened intently without interrupting, occasionally nodding her head. "The prenup is solid," she stated after a long pause. "The infidelity clause is the cherry on top. He doesn't have a chance in hell." "I want everything," I declared firmly. "I want him to pay for every lie, every betrayal, every moment of disrespect. I want him to regret underestimating me." Sarah Martinez smiled, a predatory smile that gave me chills. "I understand perfectly," she replied, "and will make him regret it. But this won't be easy. He's going to fight back. He'll try to smear your reputation. He'll use every dirty trick he can imagine." "I'm prepared," I assured her. "I have evidence, I have a bulletproof prenup, and I have the best attorney in Chicago on my side. What more do I need?" "You need patience," Sarah Martinez responded, "and you need to trust me. This process will be long and painful. There will be moments when you'll want to give up, but you can't. Always remember what he did to you. Remember how he humiliated you, and use that anger as fuel." I left Sarah Martinez's office with a sense of relief and determination. The battle was officially declared, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I had control of the situation. I called my husband and asked him to meet me at home. I needed to face him, see his reaction when he found out I knew everything. When he arrived, I noticed the weariness in his face, the deep circles under his eyes. He had no idea what was coming. "We need to talk," I said calmly, but firmly. He looked at me, confused. "About what?" "About your mistress," I replied, without beating around the bush. His face went white as a sheet. He tried to play it off, but his eyes betrayed him. The guilt was obvious. "I don't know what you're talking about," he mumbled, looking away. "Don't lie to me," I shot back, throwing the photos on our kitchen table. "I know everything. I know about your meetings, your phone calls, your text messages. I know you cheated on me." He remained silent for a long time, processing the information. Finally, he sighed and sat down heavily in the chair, defeated. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I didn't want this to happen." You didn't want it to happen? I asked incredulously. You spent months deceiving me, cheating on me, and you say you didn't want it to happen? How could you? I was confused, he replied, trying to justify himself. I wasn't happy. I needed something new in my life. Something new? I repeated sarcastically. You threw away 10 years of marriage for some cheap affair? You tossed everything we built aside for a moment of pleasure? I know I screwed up, he said, his voice trembling. But we can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can start over. Start over? I laughed bitterly. You really think I'd be capable of starting over with you after everything you've done? You're delusional. Please, he begged. Don't do this. I love you. I don't want to lose you. You already lost me, I replied coldly. The moment you decided to cheat on me, the moment you told me my money wasn't mine anymore. What are you going to do? He asked fearfully. I'm going to divorce you, I answered. And I'm going to take everything that belongs to me. Every penny, every asset, every memory. You're going to be left with nothing. And after that, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. He looked at me desperately. You wouldn't do that, he said. You're not capable of that. You don't know me, I replied with a cold smile. You never really knew me at all. At that moment, the doorbell rang. It was Sarah Martinez, accompanied by a process server. The proceedings were officially initiated. The expression on my husband's face when he saw the divorce papers was priceless. The shock, the fear, the humiliation, it was all there, written across his features. What is this? He asked, stammering. These are the divorce papers, I replied in a soft tone. And prepare yourself, honey, because from now on, your life will never be the same again. As he read through the documents, Sarah Martinez whispered to me, Next step is freezing all assets, tomorrow morning. I nodded, feeling a knot in my throat. It was a drastic measure, I knew, but necessary. I needed to protect what was mine, ensure he couldn't dissipate the wealth I'd built through sheer determination. Little did I know that in the midst of all this turmoil, he had a hidden ace up his sleeve, an ace that would put my entire strategy in jeopardy and force me to fight even harder to win this battle. The air grew thick when the process server handed him the papers. I watched his world crumble in his eyes. That moment, I'll admit, brought me a cold satisfaction. 10 years of marriage reduced to a few cold, impersonal pages. 10 years thrown in the trash for a foolish affair and unbridled ambition. While he read, Sarah Martinez whispered in my ear, Next step is freezing all the assets. Tomorrow morning. I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. It was a drastic measure, I knew, but necessary. I needed to protect what was mine, ensure he couldn't waste the wealth I'd built with so much effort. That night, I could barely sleep. The image of my husband reading the divorce papers wouldn't leave my mind. The mixture of anger, resentment, and a pang of guilt tormented me. Was I being too cruel? Did he deserve all this humiliation? I shook my head, pushing away those thoughts. He had betrayed me, deceived me, and worse yet, tried to diminish me. I couldn't give in to guilt. I needed to be strong, move forward with the plan. The next day, I woke up determined. I took a long shower, put on an elegant outfit, and went to Sarah Martinez's office. I needed to sign the documents for the asset freeze and discuss the next steps in the process. Good morning, dear. Sarah Martinez greeted me with a confident smile. Ready for another round? Ready, I replied firmly. I signed the documents without hesitation. Each signature was a blow to my husband's ego, a declaration of war. I knew he wouldn't sit still, that he'd fight with all his strength. But I was prepared. I had the law on my side, I had proof of the infidelity, and above all, I had my determination. I have news for you, Sarah Martinez said after we finished with the paperwork. Your husband filed for an injunction to prevent the asset freeze. I felt a chill run down my spine. He was playing dirty, trying to catch me off guard, but I wouldn't let myself be shaken. On what grounds? I asked, trying to stay calm. He claims the prenup is invalid, Sarah Martinez replied. Says it was signed under duress and that he didn't have the opportunity to consult with an attorney at the time. I felt my blood boiling. What audacity! He was twisting the truth, making up flimsy excuses to escape the consequences of his actions. He's lying, I declared, my voice trembling with rage. I have witnesses who can prove he signed the prenup of his own free will." "I know, dear," said Sarah Martinez, trying to calm me down. "But we need to be prepared. He's going to use everything he can to hurt us. We need to counterattack." "What do you suggest?" I asked anxiously. "We need to investigate his life thoroughly," Sarah Martinez replied. "Find out if he has anything to hide, any secret that can be used against him. We need to dig deep until we find the truth." I accepted the suggestion without hesitation. I was willing to do whatever it took to win this battle. We hired a team of private investigators to scour my husband's life. We wanted to know everything about him: his business dealings, his relationships, his secrets. While we waited for the investigation results, the tension only increased. My husband called me every day, begging me to drop the divorce. He promised to change, swore he loved me, but I didn't believe a single word. His mask had fallen, and I could see behind it a selfish, ambitious, and cruel man. One day, Sarah Martinez called me with important news. "We found something," she said mysteriously. "Something that could change everything." I scheduled a meeting with her that same day. I needed to know what they'd discovered. With each passing second, anxiety consumed me. When I arrived at the office, Sarah Martinez was waiting for me with an enigmatic smile. "Prepare yourself," she said, "because what we're about to show you will surprise you." She handed me a manila envelope. Inside, there were photos and documents. I analyzed everything carefully, trying to understand what was happening. Suddenly, it clicked. My husband was involved in a money laundering scheme. He was using my company as a front to hide illegal transactions. That was the ace he'd been hiding up his sleeve, and now I had the proof in my hands. Rage overwhelmed me with devastating force. He hadn't just cheated on me, he'd also put my company at risk. He was willing to do anything to hurt me, even if it meant dragging me down to ruin with him. In that moment, I decided I would show no mercy. I would fight with all my strength to destroy him. I would use everything I knew to expose his crimes and bring him to justice. "Sarah Martinez," I said, my voice cold and determined. "I want you to report my husband to the police. I want him to pay for everything he's done." She nodded with an approving look. "That's exactly what we're going to do," she replied. "And we're going to make sure he can never hurt anyone again." Little did I know that by reporting my husband, I would be opening Pandora's box. A box full of dark secrets, lies, and betrayals. A box that would lead me to question everything I believed and fight for my own survival. The legal turnaround was just beginning, and the consequences would be far greater than I could have ever imagined. The police station felt like something out of a film noir, with its peeling walls and flickering fluorescent lights. The smell of stale coffee and disinfectant hung in the air, seeping into every corner. I sat in the uncomfortable chair, waiting to be called in to give my statement. Sarah Martinez was by my side, impassive as always. Her presence gave me a false sense of security, a shield against the whirlwind of emotions consuming me. Reporting my husband to the police was the hardest decision I'd ever made. Part of me still clung to memories of the good times, the shared smiles, the dreams we'd built together in our Naperville home. But the other part, the wounded and outraged part, cried out for justice. He had crossed the line, betrayed me in every possible way, and I couldn't allow him to escape unpunished. Finally, I was called into the detective's office. A heavy-set man with tired eyes and 5 o'clock shadow waited behind a desk cluttered with papers. He offered me a cup of coffee, which I gratefully accepted. My hands trembled slightly, despite all my efforts to maintain composure. I began recounting the facts, from discovering the affair to confirming the money laundering scheme. The detective listened attentively, taking notes in a notepad. I showed him the photos, the documents, the bank statements proving the illegal transactions. With each detail revealed, I felt a weight being lifted from my shoulders. "Your husband is a dangerous man, ma'am," the detective said at the end of my statement. "He'll be arrested and will answer for his crimes. I appreciate your cooperation. Without your report, he might never have been caught." I left the police station with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Justice was being served, but I knew the road would be long and winding. From that moment on, my life would become a battlefield where every step would be carefully calculated. That night, I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello," I said hesitantly. "You shouldn't have done that," a hoarse, threatening voice replied from the other end. "You're going to regret this." Panic seized me. I hung up immediately, trembling from head to toe. Who was it? My husband? One of his accomplices? Anonymous threats were the harbinger of something even worse. I told Sarah Martinez about the call. She advised me to file a police report and to be extra careful about my safety. We hired private security to protect me day and night. Paranoia crept into my life, turning every street, every corner into a potential ambush. The days that followed were a nightmare. My husband was arrested but continued denying all charges. His lawyers tried to discredit the prenup, claiming I had forced him to sign it. The sensationalist press exploited every detail of the case, turning my life into a media circus. Social media became a battlefield where supporters and detractors clashed in heated discussions. I received messages of support, but also messages of hate from people who judged me without knowing the truth. The pressure was unbearable. In the midst of all this chaos, I received an unexpected visit. It was my husband's mistress, a young and beautiful woman with a desperate look in her eyes. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice breaking. "I know things that could help you." I hesitated to receive her, but curiosity once again won me over. I invited her in and made coffee for both of us. "I'm sorry for everything that happened," she began, her eyes welling up. "I didn't know he was married. He deceived me too." I believed her words. She seemed genuinely remorseful. I asked what she knew about my husband's business, about the money laundering scheme. "He told me some things," she replied. "Said he was doing a favor for some friends who needed to move money without raising suspicions. He never told me it was illegal." She revealed names, dates, locations, valuable information that could strengthen the case against my husband. I thanked her for her help and promised to protect her if she decided to testify against him. With the new information in hand, Sarah Martinez prepared an even more aggressive strategy. We presented new evidence to the police, requested the lifting of bank secrecy for everyone involved, and called my husband's mistress to testify as a witness. The situation was getting more complicated for him. His accomplices began abandoning him, afraid of being discovered. The web of lies he had woven was unraveling, revealing his true face. The trial was approaching, and the tension was palpable. I knew my husband would do everything to defend himself, that he would use all his resources to defame and demoralize me. But I was prepared. I had the truth on my side, I had the law on my side, and above all, I had my determination. The night before the trial, I had a terrible nightmare. I dreamed I was being chased by shadows, that my husband caught up with me and strangled me. I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. The feeling of fear was so real, it prevented me from breathing. I looked at the clock. It was 4 a.m. I got up from bed and went to the window. The city slept under a blanket of silence. The moon shone intensely, illuminating the deserted streets of our neighborhood. I felt a pang of loneliness. 10 years of marriage, reduced to a legal proceeding, to a sea of accusations and mistrust. Was it all worth it? Would I be able to overcome this ordeal? An inner voice answered me. Yes, I could do it. I was strong, resilient, and wouldn't let myself be defeated. I would fight to the end to protect what was mine, to defend my honor, and to ensure justice was done. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. The day of judgment had arrived, and I was ready to face my destiny, even if it held even darker surprises for me. What I didn't imagine was that during the trial, a bombshell would be dropped. A shocking revelation that would completely change the course of my life and force me to rethink everything I thought I knew about my husband and about myself. The atmosphere in the courtroom was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I sat next to Sarah Martinez, feeling the weight of her reassuring gaze. On the other side of the room, my husband, pale and haggard, looked like a ghost of that arrogant man who had told me my money wasn't mine anymore. His eyes, once full of confidence, now carried the palpable fear of imminent defeat. The trial began with the presentation of evidence. Sarah Martinez, impeccable in her pinstripe suit, paraded the photos of the infidelity, the money laundering documents, witness testimonies. Every word, every image was a precise blow to my husband's defense. His lawyers tried in vain to discredit the evidence, claiming it was obtained illegally, that the mistress was a liar, that I was driven by revenge. But Sarah Martinez was prepared for every counterattack, rebuffing each argument with surgical precision. The most tense moment was the testimony of my husband's mistress. She, visibly nervous, confirmed the affair, described the meetings, revealed details about the shady business dealings. Her eyes met mine for a brief instant, conveying a mixture of guilt and regret. When it was my husband's turn to testify, he vehemently denied everything. He claimed the mistress was obsessive, that the photos were manipulated, that the money laundering was a figment of my imagination. His performance was convincing, but I knew the truth. I knew he was lying. The next day, the judge announced the verdict. The courtroom fell silent. Every breath seemed to echo off the walls. Considering the evidence presented, this court finds the defendant guilty of adultery and money laundering. A murmur ran through the room. I saw my husband's face contort in a mixture of rage and despair. Sarah Martinez squeezed my hand with a victorious smile. Furthermore, the judge continued, considering the infidelity clause present in the prenuptial agreement, the defendant loses all rights to the plaintiff's assets. The plaintiff is entitled to 100% of the wealth accumulated during the marriage. In that moment, I felt indescribable relief. Justice had been served. I had won the battle, but the war wasn't over yet. As we were leaving the courthouse, one of my husband's lawyers approached Sarah Martinez. "We have new information," he said ominously. "Information that could change everything." Sarah Martinez shot me a worried look. "What do you mean?" she asked cautiously. "We discovered something about your client's past," the lawyer replied with a malicious smile. "Something she hid from everyone, including her husband." I felt a chill run through my body. What secret was this? What had they discovered? "I don't know what you're talking about," I replied, trying to hide my nervousness. "Oh, you know exactly what I'm talking about," the lawyer retorted with a penetrating stare. "Soon, everyone will know. And believe me, your life will never be the same." The lawyer's words echoed in my mind like thunder. Paralyzing fear invaded me. What was coming? What dark secrets from my past would be revealed? That night, I could barely sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, tormented by ghosts and uncertainties. What I didn't know was that the secret I so feared having exposed was just the tip of an iceberg. A bombshell revelation about to surface that would force me to question everything I believed I knew about myself and about the people around me. But here's what nobody expected, not even me. The next morning, as I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and trying to process everything that had happened, Sarah Martinez called with news that would shatter my world completely. "You need to sit down for this," she said, her voice unusually shaken. "The investigators found something about you that I need to tell you in person. Can you come to my office immediately?" My heart pounded as I drove through downtown Chicago traffic. What could be so devastating that it would shake even Sarah Martinez, the woman who'd seen everything in her legal career? When I arrived at her office, she had files spread across her desk and a look I'd never seen before. A mixture of shock and what looked almost like fear. "What I'm about to tell you will change everything," she began slowly. "The money laundering scheme your husband was involved in? It turns out it wasn't just him using your company as a front." I felt the world tilt on its axis. "What do you mean?" "The investigators traced the money flow more thoroughly. Your company, your business that you built from scratch. It was actually established with laundered money from the very beginning, money that came from your father." The room spun around me. "That's impossible. My father was a simple factory worker in Wisconsin. He died when I was in college." Sarah Martinez slid a thick folder across the desk. "That's what you were told. But your father wasn't just any factory worker. He was deeply involved with organized crime in Chicago. The inheritance you thought came from his life insurance. It was dirty money he'd hidden away for you. When you started your business 15 years ago, you unknowingly built your entire empire on blood money." I couldn't breathe. Everything I believed about myself, about my success, about my integrity, it was all a lie. "There's more," Sarah Martinez continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your husband found out about this 6 months ago. That's why he said your money wasn't yours anymore. He wasn't just being arrogant. He was telling you that legally, none of this money ever belonged to you. He was blackmailing you, planning to expose everything unless you signed over your assets to him." The pieces of the puzzle fell into place with horrifying clarity. The strange phone calls, his sudden confidence, his certainty that he could take everything from me. He hadn't just been cheating. He'd been playing a much more dangerous game. But here's the final twist. Sarah Martinez said, her eyes never leaving mine. Your husband didn't just discover this by accident. He was tipped off by someone who's been watching you for years. Someone from your father's old organization who's been waiting for the right moment to collect on debts you never knew existed. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tonight. Millennium Park, by the Bean. Come alone or everything goes public. Your father's daughter should know better than to try to escape the family business. I looked up at Sarah Martinez, seeing my own terror reflected in her eyes. What have I done? I whispered. You haven't done anything wrong, she said firmly. But your husband, he wasn't just laundering money through your business. He was feeding information to both sides, to the criminals and to the FBI. He's been playing everyone, including you. The question now is, are you going to let them destroy you, or are you going to fight back? As I sat there, my entire life crumbling around me, I realized that everything I thought I knew was a lie. But I also realized something else. I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. If I could build an empire once, even unknowingly with tainted money, I could do it again the right way. And I would make everyone who tried to manipulate me pay for underestimating the daughter of a man who clearly hadn't raised a victim. The real battle was just beginning, and this time I knew exactly who my enemies were. Listen, if you're facing a situation where someone is trying to take what's rightfully yours, where you feel betrayed by those closest to you, or where you discover that your past isn't what you thought it was, remember this. You are not defined by circumstances beyond your control. You are defined by how you choose to respond when everything falls apart. Don't let anyone convince you that you're powerless. Don't let betrayal turn you into a victim. And most importantly, don't let the discovery of uncomfortable truths about your past prevent you from building a better future. Sometimes, the most beautiful phoenix rises from the most devastating fire. Your strength isn't measured by what you inherit or what others give you. It's measured by what you do when everything is taken away. So ask yourself right now, what battle are you avoiding that you should be fighting? What truth are you running from that you should be facing? And what version of yourself are you going to choose to become when the dust settles? The power to rewrite your story is always in your hands. The question is, are you brave enough to pick up the pen?